City Council for Woodland, Washington. Regarding personnel matter, RCW 42.30.110, Section F and Section I, potential litigation. We will be in session for approximately 20 minutes.
Great crowd, great crowd.
Sorry. I already lost it. We haven't even started yet. Okay. Holy smokes. It is 7:02. It is Monday, March 2nd, 2020. Regular meeting for the City Council of Woodland. If I could get everyone to please silence your cell phones and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I don't think I can sit next to you anymore. Mrs. Ripp, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Fredericks?
Here.
Councilmember Rounds?
Here.
Councilmember Plaza?
Here.
Councilmember Holland?
Present.
Councilmember Chapman?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Graham?
Chair will accept a motion to excuse Mrs. Graham this evening. She called in ill.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Plaza. Will the clerk please take the roll to excuse Mrs. Graham?
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Mrs. Graham has been excused. Moving on to presentations and proclamations this evening, I have none. Moving on to citizens' communications for items not on the agenda. I have no one signed up. If you're in the audience this evening and would like to step forward, now's your opportunity. Seeing no one, moving on to citizen communications for items on the agenda. No one has signed up. If you failed to do so at the door, now's your opportunity to step forward. Seeing no one, moving on to the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
All right, the agenda has been approved. Moving on to public hearing moratorium on storage units. The time currently is 7:04. We'll be moving into that public hearing. Mr. Goddard.
Sure.
Mr. Goddard will give a staff note before we take testimony.
Which one, Travis? The
It's...
so you get two windows open.
That one, and if you could, sorry, the one on the left, and if you could go to the first slide, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Travis Goddard. I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Woodland. And we had talked in December about the need for a self-service storage moratorium, and I made a presentation, and you adopted a moratorium against accepting new applications at that time, and we had scheduled the Planning Commission on December 5th, so your moratorium was approved on the 2nd, and we did a public hearing at the Planning Commission on the 5th, but unfortunately, the way the RCW reads is it has to come back to the City Council, and the City Council has to have a public hearing about whether or not a moratorium is warranted. And so that's why we're here before you again tonight with a revised moratorium, and it would be 6 months from today if that's the direction you decided to go. Pete, next slide. So the storage facilities had come up in, I believe it was November, and I had mentioned how many applications we had coming through the door, how many were approved, and how many inquiries we've had about storage. And I gave you some quick stats about how many jobs are actually produced at storage facilities. And I was asked to prepare a moratorium so that I could prepare an ordinance regarding the prohibition of self-storage facilities in all of our zoning districts where it's currently allowed. So that's what I had prepared in December. I pointed out that the City of Vancouver has been going through a moratorium, and their City or Planning Commission had updated their ordinance, and I did a quick review of the city of Woodland, and then I also know that there are several facilities in Cowlitz County that surrounded the city, and so I ran some quick numbers. Pete, if you could go to the next slide, I believe that's what lays them out. Industry information that I found online, and I know I'm repeating this, but for the public record, as part of the public hearing, I'll go through this quickly. 8.96% of U.S. households rent storage units. That's basically almost 1 in 10. 67% of storage renters live in single-family residential, so it means that people who own single-family homes tend to be the lion's share of people who rent storage space. 13% are rented for 3 months or less, so they're temporary turnaround, and 52% are rented for more than a year. Next slide. Again, this is industry information. There are 48,500 businesses or storage businesses in the U.S. When you compare that to Starbucks, who appear to be on every corner, and McDonald's, who appear to be on every other corner that there's not a Starbucks on, it dwarfs the amount of those franchises that you see. The number of employees that the storage industry employees is 172,000, and you'll notice that the quick mathematics of 48,000 businesses, 172,000 employees for such a ubiquitous, like you imagine how many people McDonald's and Starbucks employ, and you get less than 3 employees on the average self-storage site. Next slide, Pete. Thank you. So the average site is between 2 and 5 is typical. $38 billion worth of revenue in 2018, and that was 1.5 billion square feet of rentable space. And on average, the industry looks at 10.3% vacancy rate across the entire United States. In 2008, the construction value was $1 billion, and it is 5.5 billion in 2018, so you see how much new construction is occurring. Next slide, thank you. So the city of Vancouver has 30 facilities in the city, 1.4 million square feet, and 183,500 is the population for the city of Vancouver. So on average, they have about 8 square feet per residence, and their boom in construction is what warranted them putting on the moratorium, because they needed to take a look at, as the construction in Vancouver, that's where the 1 million and 5 million comes from. That's just from the city of Vancouver. The vacancy rate in 2016 was 100%, and in the last 3 years they've built so many that their vacancy rate has dropped by 17%. That's how much of this growth is occurring. Next slide. So the city of Vancouver looked at only multi-story structures. You can only access it from the interior, and I think I have some photos later on. They prohibit outside storage, so you can't have anything in the yard or out back of the building. And they prohibit activities not appropriate within storage units. They also talked about adding design standards, and the expansion of existing facilities is okay if it's on the existing property. So in other words, if they only did phase 1 of 3 phases, they can continue to build the rest of those phases as approved. They just wouldn't allow them to move on additional neighboring sites. The city of Woodland, we have 6 facilities within the city, which is about 20% of Vancouver. However, when you look at the residence numbers, we only have 3.3% of the population. Next slide. I'm sorry. So we also have 1 approved, and that number is now changed to 2 approved. We, or 1 new, 1 expanded, 1 in the permitting process. We now have 2 pre-application conferences were submitted, and we had to turn them away because of the moratorium that was in place as of December. We've also had inquiries for several additional people who called us, and we basically turned them away and haven't heard back from them since we told them the moratorium is pending. But we also looked at Cowlitz County, and while we have 6, there are 5 more facilities within Cowlitz County immediately adjacent to the city limits. So that really means that we have 40% of the city of Vancouver's capacity. Next slide. And if you could click, I think there's a couple on this. So the market saturation is considered between 8 to 10 feet per residence, and the city of Vancouver is at 8 square feet. The city of Woodland, just looking at the units that we have in, is 58.5 square feet per residence. And if you consider the RV spaces, there's an additional 27.3 square feet per residence. Or, I'm sorry, that's if you remove the RV, because we have several, like the Weekender is strictly an RV rental space. So if we were to compare apples to apples, the city of Vancouver has about the industry saturation level, and the city of Woodland has almost 4 times the industry considered saturation level. So the 6 facilities in the city, 2,220 housing units, that's what we currently have within the city. If 9% of them need storage units, we should have about 199 storage units to supply city residents. And if you go to the next click, actually I think there's a couple here. So the existing, we currently have 750 units, so while our local demand in the city is 199, we have 750. That doesn't include the 376 RV spaces that we currently provide. Approved, you have to add another 452 units, or 454 units, and 448 RV spaces. And when you add the Cowlitz County self-storage facilities, that adds 1,300, so it more than doubles just the units that the city has, and 316 RV spaces. So they're RV light and storage unit heavy, and we appear to be storage unit and RV storage heavy over saturation levels. Next slide, Pete. So what's interesting, sorry, that the last statistic right there is that's 1.2 units for every home in the city. So instead of 9% usage, we actually have like 112% of capacity. Estimated square footage. If you look at our existing, we have about 233,000 square feet, and that's 17.75 square feet. When you include the approved project, that's another 100,000 square feet. This is almost the entire area within Belmont Loop is an approved storage unit, so that field theoretically could be filled with storage units, and that's the 100,000 you see there. When you include Cowlitz County, there is already an existing 225,000 square feet. And excluding RV spaces, we're talking 63.5 square feet per citizen, which is like, what's that, 8 times saturation level. When you include the RV spaces, it actually goes up to pretty close to 10 times saturation level. The next slide. Thank you. A couple things that we look at when we have this discussion and we're having the conversation with the Planning Commission is there are goals in the comprehensive plan about quality of life, and there's a whole chapter on economic development, and the statistics that we've found for storage and job generation. We're seeing that a lot of storage units are actually less than 1 job per acre, and many of them are unmanned, and they're also going towards the new trend of storage containers, so people will be able to bring stuff on trucks and stack them on top of each other. From the city's point of view, it may not be high traffic, but they're not attractive, and there's zero tax base because there are no structures on the property. Therefore, the security issues and the fire issues and the other city services don't get any benefit, whereas commercial and industrial, our comprehensive plan estimates that an industrial developed acre will bring in 6 jobs per acre, and commercial is 20 jobs per acre. So if we're going from 6 or 20 with taxable value that offset those impacts to a 0 job producing or less than 1 job per business, on average less than 3 across the entire country, it has a pretty significant impact over our projected economic development goals. So that is, in a nutshell, oh, I'm sorry, the one thing I do want to give you a heads up is we went to the Planning Commission on December 5th, and we presented a lot of this same information plus the ordinance language that would prohibit it. And the Planning Commission felt that they understood that you had wanted to adopt a moratorium, but they wanted to make sure that you had an informed decision to make. So they asked staff to take a look at what some of the neighboring jurisdictions other than the city of Vancouver did. So we looked at Ridgefield, La Center, and I believe it was Camas, all of which who've looking at storage or just recently finished their storage reviews. Ridgefield has an interesting code language that says storage is prohibited until there is an 8 square foot per resident standard, at which point, so as the city of Ridgefield grows, there will be more demand for storage, meaning that they may not need additional storage developments for 2 or 3 or 8 years, but at which time you don't need to change the code to allow it. Staff would just simply do the internal calculation and accept the next application that comes in the door. We'll put it out of balance and create a saturation level that they will wait until the population catches up, which is interesting, but it puts all of the burden on staff to keep track of all the storage units and the growth. So they seem to come up with an interesting way of doing it. I mentioned Vancouver and the changes that they have recommended, which is
or the expo center up there at the fairgrounds, and it was kind of neat. We kind of copied Lewis County, where they have little stations around to take the young kids how to traffic safety, railroad safety, boating safety, all that type of stuff. It was well received by the community. We did one of our schools came from Woodland to go visit that. I think they had 95 kids that went through that, which was kind of cool. And I also attended the first day of the Cowles County Citizens Academy. And that's what we got going on in the PD.
Questions for Chief Kelly? Mr. Chapman?
Friday, did you have an exercise?
This coming Friday?
No, this last Friday at the high school.
No,
There was no exercise.
that was all business.
That was all business.
Yes, sir.
There is an exercise coming, though.
Okay.
This Friday,
This Friday.
there's a reunification drill
Okay.
that the district is hosting that. And
Okay.
our fire partners are going to contribute, as well as a couple of the officers.
The legitimate, the fire department itself, not the association.
No,
I'm just clarifying. Just clarifying, Chief.
Clerk County Fire and Rescue,
Yeah.
they're going to participate.
So the people on duty there may also be members of the association.
Gotcha. Is there going to be sandwiches for sale? Is there a barbecue? Is there a barbecue sandwich for sale?
No,
Not at this event.
different.
It's a different group, a different umbrella, perhaps.
Why I asked, Chief, was I had some citizens asking, that was a drill? I said, no. I said, that's what I put on record, no, that was not a...
But that was a real deal, and if you want to
Yes.
find out about that, we can talk offline about it.
Exactly, but I was going to say to put out, yes, that was not, everybody was saying, that was a training exercise. No.
Are you part of the Citizens Academy this time, or you were just attending the first?
No, it's just typically the first day.
Oh, okay.
The sheriff was there, Lumpy was there, Kelso was there,
Okay.
and so we welcomed everybody. And
No, I'm not going to make my session this time. I'll be out of town, so I've got somebody standing in for me on my,
well, they've got a bunch of good instructors up there. And,
yeah. It's his last one, too. Doug, right?
who's
Guy running the Citizens Academy.
Kurt Wiper?
No. His name will come to me at 2 in the morning, I'll call you.
I'm good.
But it's a great program. If anyone ever gets the opportunity to join, it's a really good program. It gives you some insight into law enforcement and all the different activities. And it's over the course of, what, like 7 sessions or something like that?
That's it,
Yeah.
it's quite a few weeks.
Yeah. They still go to the shooting range?
Yep.
Okay. You get to go out to the shooting range? Yeah.
Give you a little practice, a little application of some of the things that we have to do on a daily basis. So it's
Good
kind of
stuff.
neat.
Thank you, Chief. What's that? No, there's a wet lab, though. There's drinking involved for some participants, and then run you through the DUI experience. Yeah. Not for the classes, just not for the students. But, Chief Nor. I'm kicking it to you, sir.
In January, we had 78 emergency responses within the city. In February, we had 71 emergency responses within the city. Like yourself, Mayor, I've been involved in some legislative activities. On January 16th, I testified before the Senate Committee on Financial Institutions, Economic Development and Trade in support of Bill 6078. That is a bill that clarifies for the insurance industry that if we bill them for a response, they have to pay us. There were some insurance companies that felt that there was some wiggle room in the law, and some were choosing not to pay. So just for educational purposes, if we respond on the freeway, on I-5 freeway, or on any state routes within the district on a motor vehicle crash, we will bill for that, for the cost of that response, a small fee for that response, and it is passed on to the insurance, for the folks' insurance on that. If we respond to a hazardous material spill anywhere within the district or the city here, we will bill for the cleanup of that. And there are some insurance companies that we're not paying. We budget for $10,000 in collections per year, so it's not a huge amount, but every little bit helps. Examples of things we've used to pay for is better lighting on our rigs. We go out on I-5 about 420 to 450 times a year on average for motor vehicle crashes and other incidents, and it's a very dangerous place to be, and so it's good that we can get those some of those things up. So it was good to go testify before that. Also on Legislative Day, January 28th, one of the Fire District Commissioners and myself attended. We made contact with all the local representatives and senators and supported. And the biggest bill we were looking for support on that one was a bill that boosts the pension for volunteer firefighters. So in the state of Washington, if you volunteer as a firefighter or a reserve police officer and you do 25 years of service for your community, you can get a small pension after that 25 years of service, and this would raise the annual pension from $300 a year to $350 a year for people that served, and we got a lot of support from the local folks there. Also, and I believe I may have talked to you about this before, so if I did, bear with me, but on December 12th, we held a little ceremony to honor citizens that have performed heroically in the community. And a Woodland resident, Mr. Greg Blumke, was honored for performing CPR on his neighbor, and Mr. Bob Nielsen, who also was in attendance there. He survived that. And Mr. Nielsen was walking his granddaughter back from the bus stop, and I do forget the name of the street he lived on over here by the school, and collapsed in cardiac arrest. His neighbor saw that, went out, performed CPR on dispatch. The dispatchers walked him through CPR. The unit from the station here was on scene within less than 6 minutes after the incident occurred. They were able to revive him, and it's always kind of special when a person like that actually walks into the ceremony. I, in fact, mistaken him when he walked in, and I said, "Hey, you must be Greg," and he's like, "No, I'm Bob. Greg helped me out." So, I just want to thank Mr. Greg Blumke from Woodland for his efforts during that event. We continue to be busy on the development front. Chief Jackson and Fire Inspector Josh Taylor are busy on multiple things, but a few of the items that we've been working on for plans review and new construction inspections include the Red Leaf Coffee commercial building on Belmont Loop, the KWRL fueling facility, B Young RV, which is now complete and up in business, but that took up a considerable amount of our time, as in the trust plant, First Source Trust Plant, and looking at some site plans for an ARCO, as well as 2 fast food restaurants and 2 other commercial projects. So on those items. Last thing I wanted to bring up, I forgot to mention this at the end of the year, but our firefighters each year, it started 2 years ago, I shouldn't say each year, it started 2 years ago. Captain Brooks, who was the captain here at Fire Station 29 for the last 2 years, wanted to do a coat drive, and so we did it in 2018, and we did it again in 2019. Get a ride in the fire engine if you donate a coat. So Walmart allows us to use their parking lot. We have 2 firefighters coming off duty and drive the different rigs. It's a ride, it's not a drive.
You don't get to drive the fire truck?
Yeah, you do not get to drive. We collected 130 coats that we donated to Woodland Action Committee on
So-
that date, in November. So
Clarification, so if I just keep going back to the car and bringing one coat, we can keep going around in circles?
You can. You will have.
Just not like one deposit, you get to keep going on like a Ferris wheel?
I never thought about, we do have multiple seats. If you brought your whole box of coats up front, you might get to do continuous.
You'll let me drive? Is that a hard no?
That's a soft no.
So you're saying I got a chance?
In November.
Sounds good. I'm gonna start collecting coats. I'm gonna hold a coat drive and then save them. We're in.
I'm driving.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
My goal is to find an old beat-up truck that you can steer from the back.
That'd be awesome. Get that pretty much.
That'd be fun.
How about a minibus?
We don't have we do have to do it.
Probably show up there. There's Finn. Give him the pedal cart. It looks like a fire truck. Let him drive that. Oh, questions for Chief Nor? I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. You know what? I think you started it though.
Chief, I got a question on the $350 for people who have donated their time, reserve officers. That's $350 per month, not per year, right?
Thank you, sir, it is. It is
Okay.
$350 per month. And to clarify, they contribute $60 a year of their own money during that time. It goes into a state fund. And so it would raise to $90 a year contribution on their part. And then the district does a partial match on that. But then they would get $350 per month after 25 years of service. So it is, volunteer firefighters and police officers in some communities make up a significant portion of the responders. And it is a small way for them to get something back for their years of service. And 25 years as a volunteer is a long time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Chief. Mr. Goddard.
So, we've had a busy month in February, considering how slow January was. So, Builders First Source Trust Plant had their ribbon cutting. That was a nice event.
We were all there for that too.
Yes.
I go to so many things I forget.
Red Leaf had their pre-construction conference today. Sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, but Chief stole a lot of my thunder, yes. We had a couple pre-apps last month. The Chevron site on Belmont Loop is looking at developing the last 3 paths. That's kind of the grass area that's beyond the Chevron and the Wayback Burger and down to the commercial building that's kind of on their south there. And also a 4-lot short plat on Gun Club Road, just north of the church. There's a little, there's a pretty big lot with an old motorbike track, little dirt bike track. So that's been sold to a new owner who's looking at a 4-lot subdivision. We also received an application, Kirkland Premier Storage of Woodland, and they applied for a pre-application conference and were told that the moratorium was in place so that we couldn't accept it. So that was kicked back to them. The shoreline grant was was awarded to the city, $16,800. So we're working on the contract. We should have that money pretty available to us pretty quick. So we'll get started on that. And I wanted to remind you as an update that is just a review of the plan that was adopted in 2017. Our 8-year schedule for Cowlitz County jurisdictions to review the shoreline program is 2021. So that's why we're going after this grant, and there won't be a lot of major amendments or rewrites unless the community feels that during the public outreach that additional amendments need to be done. So mostly it's a consistency with state regulations and to make sure that the Shoreline Management Act hasn't changed. We also received a new application for Heron Meadows. It was previously called Quail Meadows. It's across the street from the intermediate school. I believe it's 36 or might be 38 single-family residential lots.
Is that still going to be 55 and older? Are they still going with that?
No, not currently.
Oh, they're not?
They're going to
Yes.
design it for that, but not make it mandatory for that. They're going
Oh.
to design it for that group.
Okay, for the demographic. Okay, gotcha.
We also received 2 short plat applications on CC Street and Washington Street. They're back-to-back to each other, and they're looking at 2 lots and 4 lots accordingly. Arco AMPM, it looks like they are ready to get their building permits issued, so we expect them to develop that site on the corner of Sherman and Dyke Access or Dyke Road. We still are sitting on the records that were pulled for the public records request. Our friend Ray Ross, who called staff and raised hell about whether or not we were going to apply the city's signage code to them or not. He has still not responded to all the documents that were pulled on his behalf. So I think we're going to follow up and say that we believe that we've met our requirement and that they failed to get their records as requested. Commented on several county projects. So we had 3 applications come in the door that staff has gave you an update on this the last meeting. So if you have any additional questions about that, Melissa and I can both answer those. But we haven't heard back anything from the county because there were no pending applications. We're just at the start of the process and trying to give them our input ahead of time. And also, I wanted to point out and thank Melissa, who attended the Exit 21 open house on Community Development's behalf. And it was run by Public Works and their consultant for the Exit 21 study. And I've had a lot of great feedback on that, including a lot of people have noticed how many of the council, the elected officials, and the planning commission and other appointed groups showed up to be involved. And so they were pretty impressed that they came to talk to these mysterious consultants and ended up being able to talk to the actual elected officials. People really thought that was cool. So it does matter a lot that when you show up to these events. So
See? Told you.
and that's it for community development this month.
Questions for Mr. Goddard? All right. Thank you, Mr. Goddard. Okay, seeing no other executive staff members. I'm just kidding. Ms. Coleman, do you have a PowerPoint?
I don't even have a presentation.
You don't?
No, I want you to listen. So,
Oh, that's a hard one.
okay, you ready?
No pictures?
No pictures.
How?
Pay
Okay.
attention, let's see if you have any questions. Pay
Okay.
attention. You ready? So daylight savings is this coming Sunday. Don't forget. The 8th.
Spring forward.
Yep, spring forward.
That's-
Okay, so we
that's
lose sleep, so
crazy.
we're all gonna be tired on Monday. So those are the first thing, okay? Downtown Woodland Revitalization, next meeting is March 12th at 10 a.m. at the Grange, if anybody wants to attend. Park Board, next meeting for Park Board is March 18th at 4 p.m. The Love Your Parks did go over very well. I was pleasantly surprised at the amount of support that we received from our city employees, all departments. Our Public Works employees participated at 80%, and the only ones who didn't participate were on vacation. So, and even some that were on vacation came in for it. So I was very, very pleased with that. And the other departments, the police and so on and so forth. Travis's department, I'm not sure if Mary's department did, but regardless, everybody participated. I was very happy. And the mayor, thank you, Mary. And council members who purchased tickets, I really appreciate that. We are going to have a seawall drill with the Dyking District on March 24th. So if you see us out there at about 9 a.m., we'll be out there doing a seawall exercise. So then now, what we have going on, I didn't show any pictures because everything's at the beginning right now of all these projects that we have going on right now. So Scott Hill Booster Pump, we're just getting ready to mobilize on that. Everybody knows about that, Scott Hill Booster Pump. Old Pacific Highway and Scott Hill Sewer Tie-In, that's going on. You can see the construction going on right outside here. Lakeshore Drive, we're working on paving in the sidewalks on those grant dollars, so we're working on getting an RFQ out for engineering on that. And
Will that happen this year?
the grant dollars were awarded for next year, but we're
Okay.
trying to get them moved ahead into this year. So I'd like to get it this year, but we're gonna have to see if we can get it moved up. Gory Chip Seal from Lakeshore Drive to Davidson, that's also in next year. I'm gonna see if I can get it moved up to this year. Water line crossing on West Scott Avenue, we're putting a new water line there, and then we have the increased water line size on Davidson. You'll probably see people out there boring, so that's going on right now. West Scott Avenue and Guild Road full depth reclamation will be going on probably later on this fall. So but right now we're all in engineering. Water treatment plant filter restoration, those bids just came back and were awarded, so that's going to be starting here soon. I want to give a shout out to Mary's group for the FCS group rate study that we're doing right now. Mary's group has had to provide a lot of information and records for that study, and not as much, I would say, as Public Works, but we're kind of spearheading it, but her group has contributed the majority of the information that's needed, so I want to thank her group for that. Water plan update we're still working on, so we're doing the water plan. Feasibility study, industrial park, we are moving forward on that. We're waiting for the traffic demand model to be completed. You will see in the next packet for the, your agenda packet for next council meeting, a change order coming across that way because we want to use the traffic demand model for that. So you'll see that and then what they've submitted to us at this point, so you'll be able to read what they've done at this point on that. So I'll have all that included in that. When I say all that, I'll have all the information that they've already provided us for what they've done on the feasibility study for those 400 acres, so you guys will be able to review that. So I'll have that ahead of time for you. Exit 21, big shout out to Travis's group as well. Melissa's done an outstanding job, and they've done a really great job of communicating with the consultant that we're working with, Kittleson Associates, and helping us set up meetings for the public where I wasn't able to attend one. Dennis was there, Melissa was there, and it went over very well. So I really thank Travis's group for participating in on that. Right now, you'll see the staff out. Right now, Public Works doing our valve training program. We haven't done that for a number of years. We're behind. And that's mandated that we actually do that. And it's recommended every year, but we're finally catching up, kind of like our hydrants. So they're out there for the next 2 weeks doing that. So we'll be busy finishing up a third of the valve training and hopefully do another third at the end of the year.
I saw them in my neighborhood today.
Yeah.
I pulled over and talked to Mr. Summers and Tyler. And
Don't
said,
distract them.
well, I did. I was distracting them, and they said,
Okay.
I said, what are you doing? They said, exercising.
Yeah.
That's what they call it, is exercising the valves.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what it's called.
It was interesting.
Yeah, and we have to turn them because we want to make sure that we can isolate if there's a water leak or a water burst. We want to make sure we can isolate the lines. Also, we're looking around town for some small sidewalk projects because we have some limited funds. As you know, had some funds in there, so we're looking around town some little sidewalk tie-in projects that we can do. We're also working with Cowlitz County to do a chip seal. We're going to be working on spruce and rhododendron this year. That's been put off for the last couple of years because we've concentrated on the other side of town, so we're going to go out and work on spruce and rhododendron.
I'm sorry, I hate to keep interrupting, but I'm going to. Did we get any traffic numbers back from the traffic that goes into the county and back into the city again?
I
on
do
those?
have those, and I just
Okay.
haven't put it together for you yet. I do have those numbers for
Okay.
you. Two of the numbers that I'm still working on, which I was going to include, were the traffic counts going over Davidson and West Scott. I think those are important numbers to have too, so we can see what traffic's going over the railroad tracks. So that I'm waiting for to come back from Ray Osborne. So when I get that, I'll shoot all the numbers. I had that on my list today.
Have we contacted the county at all to help assist with a portion of those roads that you're talking about? Not rhododendron, but what'd you say?
Spruce and rhododendron.
Yeah.
And those are in our city limits. So no.
Okay. Okay.
But Cowlitz County,
Those are off of Gun
we use their road crew
Okay.
for chip sealing, and we get it at a reduced cost.
Okay.
So it's better for us to use them than put it out to bid. And they give us a really good deal on it. We have a contract with them. So.
Okay.
This week, WashDOT shared with us that if you probably see them out there working on exit 21, they're clearing out all underbrush and everything around exit 21. So when they're done with that this week, they're going to go to the park and ride and clean up the park and ride area 2 days. They don't know which 2 days are going to be. It could be tomorrow, it could be Wednesday, it could be Thursday, but just know that 2 days they're going to be the park and ride, and they're going to cut off about 40% of the parking spaces, but they will not be interfering with the bus system. They have talked with the bus system and with the park and ride, and so they won't interfere with people's ability to park there, but I just want everybody to know that that's what's going to be going on there. They're going to be cleaning it up. And then we're wrapping up our last theme night for Hot Summer Nights, and we'll be going out for donations to be able to put on our Hot Summer Nights again. And so we have one theme that we're struggling with, but I think we haven't figured out. It's a secret scroll information, so you'll have to wait for that to come. We have a grant due for, remember the splash pad that we put the grant out for? A couple of years ago, it's in a 2-year cycle, so that's coming due May 1st, so we will be reapplying for that. Then there's another grant that I'm contemplating applying for, and that's the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant, and that's due May 1st as well. And that's for that piece of land that we have out on Lewis River Highway, that park property that we haven't done anything with. So I'm thinking about maybe doing something with that property there with some grant dollars. Then we're trying to find a contractor. We did go out for an RFP for a contractor to fix the 500,000 gallon reservoir. No RFPs came back yet, so we're contacting individuals, including the consulting company, the contracting company that did the repair. I think it was about 5-8 years ago, to get some numbers, because now we can just choose somebody to do it, so we're waiting for a number to come back on that. And then we have our engineer working on the ScreenWorks project at the wastewater treatment plant. That's where we're doing the screening system for all the rags and rocks that come into the wastewater plant, so we can isolate those from ruining our pumps. And then we received a grant from the Port of Woodland reimbursement for some of the paint and the flooring that we did at Community Center. So the nice thing is now we can take that grant dollars, we can bring it in and then spend it again for some further upgrades to the Community Center. So I'm looking at either a roof or the exterior of the Community Center, some new siding on that. And that's all I have. So now, my question to you is, what did you remember? The most important thing?
Spring forward.
Spring forward.
I was trying to think of something that I really liked.
Yeah, did you like any of that?
I liked it all.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Fredericks.
Seawall exercise, are you closing Lewis River Road for that?
Intermittently?
I'm not 100% sure because I've never done the exercise, so I can't answer that, but I can get back to you and we'll make sure that if we do close part of it, that it'll be on the website. But I will tell you the can't remember the terminology for it.
They've done it both ways, Tracy.
Yeah, you know those markers that are in the middle of the road to keep people from turning? Those are meant to be removed for the seawall, so I'm not sure how it's all going to work out yet, but we just pulled up the manual yesterday, so, excuse me, today, not yesterday.
So if there is a closure, I just want to make sure it's just being communicated as much as we can. through the
We
city.
absolutely will communicate it on the website, and so the Dyke District has done it a numerous amount of times, so I'm sure that I'll get with Dean. I haven't met with him yet, but he just informed us of it.
I don't know that we've done it since the roundabout's been opened.
Yeah, I haven't done it before in 3 years, and it's supposed to be done every couple of years, so this
Yeah.
will be my first
I think-
experience with that.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. It was, I think, last time it was done was 2016, wasn't it?
So is there any reason why this is being done on a Saturday rather than in the middle of the week?
Why it's not being done on Saturday?
It is being done on a Saturday. You said it was the 21st of March.
You said 24th?
No.
24th?
No,
Okay.
24th.
I missed
Yeah.
That full moon.
I'm like, no, because,
Okay.
yeah, I won't come in on Saturday because I get paid, my pay goes down the more hours I work.
That makes sense.
I come in, it wouldn't matter.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Coleman? All right.
I look forward to showing you pictures of completed projects versus startup projects. So these are all, 20 items that are going to be completed that you'll be able to see throughout the year.
Just disappointed there was no presentation tonight. But
Oh, I did present, I brought it.
Thank you very much. Moving on to consent items.
Move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Frederick, seconded by Councilmember Plaza. Will the clerk please take the vote?
Councilmember Rounds?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
All right, consent items have passed. The time is now 8:16. We'll take a 5-minute break. You're welcome. I wish I had some cookies or a muffin or something.
I have fudge over at the office.
A barbecued sandwich.
Barbecue sandwich.
The 1C2, I1 and I2 zones, first and final reading.
Move adoption of ordinance number 1458.
I'll second it.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, seconded by Councilmember Rounds. Councilmember Fredericks.
I appreciate Mr. Goddard's detailed explanation on that. I think I'm in agreement that we need to take a further look at it, and I think that this gives us the opportunity to do that, so I'm in support of this.
Councilmember Rounds.
I'm in support of it also.
Further discussion?
His presentation today was quite, yeah, it was really good.
All right, thank you, Mr. Smith. Will the clerk please take the vote on ordinance number 1458?
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
No.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds? Aye. Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Action item D passes 5-1. Moving on to action item E, ordinance number 1455, amending Woodland Municipal Code to combine Park Board and Horseshoe Lake Management Committee, final reading.
Move adoption of ordinance number 1455.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, second by Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Fredericks.
This seems to make sense to me. Just combining two committees into one. Just needs to be done.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. We've been trying to get people to get on the boards and fill these spots, and we can't, so we'll just consolidate until, hopefully one day we'll get some more volunteers, we can split it up again, but for this time, it makes the most sense to keep everything going.
Further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please take the vote on action item E, ordinance number 1455?
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds? Aye. Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Action item E has passed. Moving on to action item F, resolution 718, intent to reduce property tax contingent upon annexation into Clark County Fire and Rescue District.
Move to approve action item F, resolution 718.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Plaza, seconded by Councilmember Fredericks. Councilmember Plaza.
Basically, this portion of the property tax was specifically to pay for our Clark County Fire and Rescue contract. If the area is annexed into the district, then there's no reason for the city to collect that money from the citizens anymore, and it's only fair that it gets returned back to them.
Councilmember Fredericks.
This is a companion to action item G. It just explains what our intent is if it is passed by the voters. And I think since I am supportive of the next action item, I'm supportive of this resolution on this action item.
Further discussion? Seeing none, Mrs. Ripley, please take the vote on action item F, resolution 718.
Councilmember Holland?
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds? Aye. Councilmember Plaza?
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman?
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Action item F has passed. Moving on to action item G, ordinance number 1457, authorizing CCF&R ballot measure to annex to the fire district and place on August 4, 2020 primary election ballot.
Move adoption of ordinance number 1457.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Fredericks, seconded by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Fredericks.
From my standpoint, I think this is the next logical step here for the city. This is something that is actually, we've been working on this. At one point, we were looking at doing a RFA. I think that this makes the most sense and makes the most sense for the taxpayers of Woodland. I'm in support of this ordinance, and I appreciate the partnership with Clark County Fire and Rescue.
Councilmember Plaza.
I just basically agree with everything Councilmember Frederick said, so no comment.
Further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the clerk please take the vote on action item G, ordinance number 1457.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Action item G has passed. Moving on to action item H, ordinance number 1456, amending council rules and procedures, ordinance 1428, final reading.
Move to approve ordinance 1456.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Chapman, seconded by Councilmember Plaza. Councilmember Chapman.
Yeah, this is going through cleaning up some language and stuff on some ordinance and stuff that has some, what do you call it, typos and stuff on it we need to take care of.
All right. Councilmember Plaza.
No comment.
Further discussion? All right, seeing none, will the clerk please take the roll on action item H, ordinance 1456.
Councilmember Holland.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Fredericks.
Aye.
Councilmember Chapman.
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Plaza.
Aye.
Action item H has passed. We've come to the portion of the meeting for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Holland, seconded by Councilmember Chapman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 8:29.
You can stay by yourself.
Thank you, everybody.
I started getting the yawns. I thought it was appropriate that we wrap this up.